Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's time for another live stream. Normally, it's a Monday. It'd be a Monday mukbang day. I didn't have a chance to get anything prepared for today. It's been kind of a crazy day, and I hope we can even still make it through the entire live stream. I'll explain in just a minute. But first, I want to welcome everyone here. Thanks for tuning in. It is Monday, 3 p.m. in New Vienna, Iowa, August 17th, 2020. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. It is just absolutely beautiful weather here, like a little bit cool for this time of year, and not that humid. We've had the windows open for several days now. It's just fantastic. My morning run today was in the low 60s, so just beautiful running weather. Hopefully you guys are all also doing well. I saw some comments earlier from some people who are here. And I think we've got to get the cowbell ready. But first, we've got something from Lewis Cameron. Says, hey, what's going on, everyone? Good to see you, Lewis. And then MC1796 with a giant compliment saying, I'm a huge soccer and basketball fan, Kofuzi, and you have something special here because after missing the past two streams, I look forward to this one more than the Europa League semifinals and the NBA playoffs. That, I think, may be a bit of an exaggeration, but that's a giant compliment, and thank you very much. Yeah, I was thinking that we might have to skip today's live stream because my brother-in-law, with his tree situation, there's a tree on the house. It's damaged the roof. It's a two-story house, so they need to have like a crane to come in and lift the tree off. You can't just go up there and cut it down. There should be a guy coming today. It's hard because like lots of cell phone service is still iffy. So there should be a guy coming down today with a team with a crane to be able to lift the tree off. And then I think the situation is going to be they'll cut it up into enough chunks that they need to remove the tree from the structure. And then like the rest of like the cleanup is kind of on the property owner, just so that I think the idea is so that way they can hit more houses and get to more damaged properties quicker. So our plan is to hop in the truck, bring the chainsaw down there. I won't be operating it. And then once the main parts of the tree are down, we'll have to chop it up into smaller pieces, and I'll do my, project site cleanup task that I like doing. So we're not sure. I think we won't have to leave till about 4 o'clock. But like if we get a call saying like, hey, they're almost done, hurry up on down here, I might have to leave earlier. So hopefully, I think we'll be able to get through the whole live stream. We haven't really heard too much about what's going on in terms of the status. They say it's a 4-hour job. They were supposed to start at 12 or 1. But we haven't gotten confirmation that the crane actually showed up. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen. But in terms of the cowbell that I was mentioning before, we heard from Charlie Edwards, who was here way early, has said, hey, Co, I messaged you on IG recently about completing my first marathon off my own back or waiting for the London Virtual Marathon. I do remember that. We had a little bit of a discussion about Charlie. I think he and his wife. I'm not sure if you guys are married, but his partner is expecting soon, if I recall correctly. So I was like, do it now. Don't try and wait for the baby to come first and then do the virtual marathon. Do it now while you can. He did it, and he said today did it. Goal was 3:45, and he managed a 3:36, so 9 minutes above his anticipated pace. I think that calls for a cowbell. I like that sound. That's the sound that I actually made by myself. So congratulations, Charlie. Great work. Let's see who else is here. We got JC. We've got Rain Runner, Stevie76, Luis Becerra, Chris Yao, Chris Dyke in his Dunbar says hi, Kofuzi and everyone. Lewis M says, yo, what's going on? Missed out yesterday. Hope it's all is well. Good to see you again, Lewis. David Sachs, Larry Lawrence. EL had a 5K PR today, 21:24. Let's get the bell out again. Awesome. Good work, Larry. Not Larry. EL. Good work, EL. 5K PR, 21:24. That's like just under 7 minutes a mile, I think, right? So really good work. And then my mom is here. Hi, Mom. How are you? Christian and Himat T saying NBA playoffs. Recycle on Wednesday says, is everything okay? Yeah, I think everything is fine. I mean, things are progressing. I think once they get the tree off the house, then they'll be able to get roofers or carpenters, or I'm not sure what trade, contractors of some sort, to fix whatever damage there is. Hopefully it's just like roof damage and not something structural or anything worse than that, but you can't really tell until you get the tree out. And the tree like seems to be shifting and stuff, so because it's heavy and it's leaning into a house, and so I think everything's okay, but we'll all feel a lot better once the tree's removed. Jeffrey Patterson's here for his first live stream. Awesome, welcome, glad to have you here. And Frank LaHoulier says, how much are they charging? If I understand it correctly, this guy's charging $5,000. The highest bid that they got was a total of $12,000. It was like $8,000 for the labor and then $4,000 for like a crane rental. So like they were, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's a lot or not, but it just seems like a lot. Because I don't think you could do the way that the tree is situated and like the way it's near other properties. It's on a city lot, so it's not like a suburban like quarter acre lot. So like the kind of equipment you need, you can't just bring in a boom truck to get it taken care of. So they're gonna need a pretty heavy duty crane for it. So I understand it's not gonna be like something that like two dudes can go figure out. But like it seems like a lot. But I mean, I think insurance is covering it. So I mean, not that makes it any like better. It still stinks. EL talking about his 5K PR says he loves the cowbell. Awesome, glad you like it. I love it. And he says that he's starting to think that 20 minutes is possible. Yeah, you're right there. I mean, at 21, 24, you're right there. So you can certainly do it. Frank LaHoulier says at least he'll get firewood. We've already taken back a truckload. We filled up my father-in-law's pickup truck with after a certain point he was just like, stop loading the wood onto the truck. He didn't want any more. So he got a lot. But what I didn't realize is that it has to dry. He's like, that's probably going to have to sit behind. He's got his garage. He calls it his shed, but it's like a 3-car garage. He says that's probably going to have to sit behind the shed for a good year. And I was like, whoa. So I didn't know that. I didn't know I had to dry that long. Because here I was thinking, all right, well, if we got firewoods, then let's get an axe, and I'm going to do some cross-training. I'm going to chop all those logs into little pieces or smaller pieces for a fire. And he's like, you're not going to be doing that for a year. And I was like, okay. Google phone is here. Google phone. I always think, I wonder how many people are called Google phone, but I know there's someone that keeps commenting on the channel as Google phone, and I don't know if it's the same person every time. I'm assuming it is because it seems to be the same person. But good to see you here, Google phone, because it sounds kind of like a generic username. Steve says, hi all, just back from 6 miles in the hype rise tempos. Awesome. Oh, by the way, Running Warehouse reached out to me. Someone that I met when I was down in Atlanta, super nice guy. Justin, and he reached out to me after I think it was after the torrent video, because a lot of people were like, hey, how about the torrent versus the catamount? Have you run the catamount yet? And I've been like, no, I haven't tested it out yet. And he contacted me. He's like, hey, we want to send you a pair. And I was like, sweet. So I think I should be getting a pair of the catamount at some point soon. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, Chris Yao says, just finished assembly on my bike that arrived today. And once the pump gets here, I'll take it out for the 0.15 mile test to see if it breaks. I mean, if you get to 0.15, you'll beat me. Or maybe you won't beat me, I guess. I got the record for how quick I can make a bike disintegrate. So, but Chris, I hope you have a good time on the bike. Hold on, my phone's ringing. Sorry about that. It says spam risk, so I'm not going to take that one. B. Rutland's here, Rain Runner, says it's a great cowbell sound. Thanks. I feel like I got it. I'll have to go and I'll take a picture of it for you guys, and I'll post it in like the Strava group or something, so that way you guys can see it. Because it's it's an actual cowbell. It doesn't look like the cowbell that like this, what was it? Like the More Cowbell Saturday Night Live skit. It doesn't look like that kind of cowbell. It's a bell that was on a cow. So yeah, both my in-laws, they both grew up on farms, so I don't think that my father-in-law's family had cows, but my mother-in-law's family had cows, that's for sure. So I'm assuming it's from them, but it could be from, I don't know who it's from. Backfam says, was listening to NPR podcast Hidden Brain, and there was a great segment on how Olympian Joan Benoit was able to use narrow focus, constantly picking targets to lock on to carry them long distance. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Cool. Yeah, I like to do that from time to time. But I like to I use narrow focus, or I consider the way I do it is more like then no focus. Like I pick a point to like stare at and then try to not look at it, if that makes sense. I do the 3DI thing, like when you're trying to look at those puzzle poster things. But I do focus on like the one thing in the distance and then run at it. So yeah. Jeff Elliott said it's crazy that the low ball bid is 5,000. Yeah, I mean that's the low one. Yeah, Franklin Hillary says I think it's better to split Greenwood. It seasons better. Yeah, I'm not sure. I just think he was thinking that it'd be easier to split once it dries out a little bit. I'm not sure. I would think that it also would make it dry out faster if it's in smaller pieces. I mean, more surface area, right? So I'm not sure. Google Phone says, if you don't mind me asking, what's your normal average running form power with Stride? Form power, not total power. I don't know. I don't know that number. I only know like the power number. So what I mean, yeah. So I don't know what the running form power is. Alessio Steccanella, I think I said that right, says ciao dall'Italia. Oh, awesome. Glad to have you here. Yeah, Recycle on Wednesday says, I'm crossing fingers that there's not any serious structural damage. I am too. The thing is, like, they were getting ready to sell that house. That's the thing. Like, I don't know if you guys remember or picked up on it, but I mentioned that he had stopped up and we had like a socially distant barbecue a couple weeks ago, and he was coming to pick up my father-in-law's saw because he was going to retrim one of the windows, and that was like one of the last things that he was going to do. So they were pretty much done with that. They had a guy working. I mean, they had a contractor at the house, not at the time, but like he was on the job to redo the rain gutters. And so then I think after that they were going to sell it. And so like it's just, it's hard because now you got to rebuild everything and kind of go through a lot of that again. I'm sure the biggest concern that they have is that there's structural damage. But for my brother-in-law in particular, he is specifically focused on a certain red squirrel that lives in that tree. And he's convinced that the red squirrel is going to try and invade and get into the house. So he's been talking about it nonstop. It's pretty funny. Yeah. So I just hope for everyone's sake that the red squirrel hasn't found a way inside the building. Oh, and so the other thing is, with the reason why there's no Monday Mukbang today, I'm just drinking Gatorade out of this pink cup, is that my father-in-law today, once he found out that we weren't going to be going over earlier in the day to help with that tree, he's like, all right, next project that we're working on. And my in-laws had just bought a bigger television, and they bought a wall mount, a bracket to put it on the wall because they wanted to wall mount their TV. And so that's what we've been working on for like the last hour and a half. It took us a long time because that requires a lot of like measuring and stuff. And I'm not that good at measuring. I don't like it. And just for me, like the visuals, for some reason, like I just can't line it up in terms of like, all right, if I, like the bracket was really weird because it was the ones that kind of swivel out. And you could swivel it and like extend it out and move like the TV all around and stuff. And so the bracket mounts weren't like centered. So like I can understand like, all right, figure out where you want the TV, mount the bracket in the center. But then, I mean, I do have some experience with TVs. We have them at the office, and I own several of them for work. But the mounts on the back of the TV aren't always in a uniform place, and they're not centered in the back of the TV always either. And so like there's a lot of like how do I measure? Like, I have a hard time even getting, like, if I had like 3 picture frames, to get like the 3 picture frames to line up in a row at the height that I want the top of the frame, because then it's like, well, from the top of the frame, then there's still like, sometimes there's a hook, sometimes there's like the wire. And so you got to measure from like the top of the frame where like the hook would hang. And then I don't know. Like, we had to take the TV on and off the wall a couple of times because I put the bracket on wrong. I don't know why I got put in charge of it, but I seem to be getting put in charge of these things from time to time. And then, and then as I'm doing it, my mother-in-law was like, yeah, we used to have to do these things for work all the time. And I was like, why isn't she in charge of the job today? But so we did that, and that just took a long time. So it's been an eventful day. But the TV looks great. It's not as high. It's about, I would say, 3 inches lower than I was expecting to be. But the bracket is mounted into a stud or studs in the wall, and the TV is up, and it hasn't fallen down yet. My father-in-law was like, well, thanks for all the help. And I was like, don't thank me let's wait till we wake up tomorrow morning, see if the TV's still on the wall. If it is, then you can thank me. And he kind of thought it was funny, but I don't think he thought it was funny. But I was also not really joking. I'm kind of nervous about it. I know it'll be fine, but I'm still always just kind of nervous. All right. Let's see. Let's go down the bottom here. What do we got? Sean Marshall says, Kofuzi, how do you feel about these virtual half and full marathons? Seems kind of silly to pay for one remotely, but they keep popping up on my Strava timeline, and then again, maybe it's good to support. I think that I have not been participating. Jeez. That was a really loud truck. I have not been really participating in a lot of events. I did participate in the GRIT Summer Distance Project, but I did get a comped bib for it. Here's where I think that they're pretty awesome. I think that if a person is like new, and there's no rules. If you want to do one, go do one. It's great. And then I think you're going to enjoy it. But like kind of the way like I see them is like, I think that they're especially useful for those people who like started running during the pandemic when like gyms closed or they couldn't do their normal activities, and they just like, all right, I guess I'll go out and jog for a little bit. To have those 5K, 10Ks, maybe their first half marathon, and have them be virtual, I think it's a great way to kind of get into it. Especially for a lot of people who might be self-conscious about showing up to their first race, thinking like, I'm not a real runner, or everyone else here has been doing this and I don't want to embarrass myself, kind of thing. So I think that they're great for that situation. I think they're great for people that want to have like that thing on the calendar to go for, and to have the knowledge that other people are going to be doing the same thing that like weekend, if not around that same time. So I think all those things are great. But I don't think that we should feel pressure to do them, with like kind of like a couple of exceptions. Like if you signed up for a race and paid for it, like, you know, the only races that I signed up for and I've gotten a refund or asked for a refund for were like the world major ones. So like, but if it was like a smaller event, I know that though a lot of those events, you know, it's not like they're not sitting on cash heavy positions, let's put it that way. And so like they have to like take the money in, start making preparations, and some of that money is not refundable to them. And so like, you know, for it to still be able to continue to go virtual, or to have it to operate as virtual, so as to continue that company's existence and the ability for that race to continue on, if that's what they need to do, then I think it's, you know, it's an interesting thing to support that. And if there were a race where like I've ran this race 17 years in a row and I don't want to miss a year, you know, then do. I mean, that's not the only reason you would do the virtual, but you know, I could see a lot of reasons for people doing virtual. I'm just not a huge fan of it. But you know, if it's what you like, go for it. And Jeff Elliott says, I think the virtual thing is nice if there's a community element. I think that's what I'm missing most. Yeah, I think a lot of people that way too. Chris says, Aravepa, I can never say it. Aravepa Running has a couple of really cool virtual running events coming up. Run every street, 3 months long, cover every street within a defined area like zip code or city limits, etc. So that's cool. I'm more of a fan right now of kind of like non-conventional running, you know. things like that are a little bit more interesting to me. The summer distance project, where it was like over a course of 30 days. I've seen people that have like, there's like various states have like run across the state, where virtually you're supposed to run the equivalent of like the width of or the length of a state, that you live in. I think those are all pretty cool things. I'm more interested in those kinds of events right now than I am like run a virtual 10K. Because then for me, it's like a 10K time trial. And I'm like, I've done that. I never really do particularly well at them. It feels weird to taper for one. That's kind of like some of the weird things that I have with it. Yeah, Colin Baker says, I might be interested in a virtual race if it were a local thing with a set course. Otherwise, how is it even a race if everybody's running in different conditions? Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, too, is kind of like if some people are doing it off their phone GPS, those are always a little bit different. So, I think that it's just, I wouldn't, even if I did like a virtual race, I wouldn't consider that a PR if I had a PR. I mean, if someone else wants to consider it a PR, that's fine. But, I just think that they're fun runs, but, there's lots of things. A race wouldn't be really what I would call it, but it's a virtual half marathon, kind of thing. Rodent Review says, just posted my first post on Strava and joined the Kofuzi Run Club while I was at it. Awesome. It is old data, but hey, it's there. Awesome. Well, cool. Junwan says, no money mukbang. Yeah, not today, just because I had ended up with, we weren't sure if we were going to even have a live stream today, because my brother-in-law, they might get the tree removed today, and so we were kind of in a holding pattern, and then we got wrapped up in the mounting the TV to the wall project, which I knew was coming at some point, but I wasn't sure. There's still one more project left for this summer, and that is burying some, I think it's called French tile. It's a misnomer because it's neither French nor tile, but I think we got to call like the local electrical company to make sure there's not any lines back there. But I think after that, that's it for like the major projects around the house for the summer. And on that note, it's been a lot of fun participating in all these kinds of things, but like I'm still like being very aware of my limitations. Like today we had to like redo the TV several times, and yesterday I tried to mount a bike rack on the back of the car, and I spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I just gave up. I can't get it on there. It's a Thule or THULE brand 2-bike trunk mounted, the one that kind of like sits on the back windshield, and there's like the straps everywhere. I don't know, I felt like I was breaking the car, and then I got the bike on it, and then the whole thing tilted, and then part of the pads weren't any longer like touching the car, and so I was like, there's no way I'm going to drive 55 miles down the road with a bike and this rack. Like, I don't know. So I just gave up. So I'm still very, very limited in terms of my ability to do things with like physical, like I'm bad in physical space. I'm good in virtual space, like software, presentations, graphic design. I'm like, I could make videos, I could take pictures, that kind of thing. But when it comes to like actually doing things in real life, I struggle. But I'm trying to learn, and I have good teachers right now. Let's see. Oh, Kurt Steve says, I think it's pronounced Thule. Is it? Huh. I'll take your word for it. Sorry, I just put some ice in my mouth and now I'm like chewing it. That's kind of gross. B. Rutland said, I signed up for the Seaweeds virtual half marathon. It's usually a lotto to get in to the real one, and I'll probably never be able to get in there in real life due to how far away it is geographically. Yeah, I heard a lot of really good things about that event last year. But yeah, it's far away. Definitely far away. Sean Marshall says, who's your favorite non-Kofuzi Strava follow, guys? I would say one of my favorite non-me follows on Strava. I frequently will, I'll scroll through quite a bit and I'll like kudos a lot of people, But I'll usually stop and look at stuff that Andy does, FOD runner. I usually stop and look at what Seth's doing. And his heart rate is always just insanely low. It's like, I don't think he ever, it's like, it's as if he never works hard. Not that he doesn't work hard, but like every run that it's like 20 miles, 2,000 feet of elevation gain, 6 minutes, 40 seconds per mile, 125 beats per minute. Like that's like the typical Seth James Damore. And then the caption will be Steezy. So, or bopping along. You know, so it's kind of like frustrating, and I always usually comment like, "Hey, that heart rate's not bad." I mean, I look at Sage's as well. Sage's is pretty similar in the kind of like insane numbers category, but I mentioned it yesterday. But I also do like to keep an eye on what Malcolm Gladwell does, and yeah, that's pretty funny as well. Yeah. Let's see what we got down here. Yeah, Mike Cow says, if you want to see a high heart rate, you can look at my easy runs. Yeah. Jeff Elliott says, Malcolm Gladwell just did a big 10-miler in the mountains. Oh, that's cool. Because I thought he had hurt his foot a little while ago and was riding a bike a lot. And for a while, he wasn't on Strava. Or he wasn't posting. So I don't know if it was that he was injured or just wasn't recording activity. Or I thought this was like, he was just like, oh yeah, people know that I'm on here now, so I'm going to stop using it. So I thought that might be it, but he still posts every once in a while. Rainrunner says, I find just regular non-elite runners the most inspiring, to be honest. I mean, yeah, I think that a part of that is like, if you're an elite runner, it's like the numbers are so insane that you're like, and they don't even make sense. And so it's like, they're like, it's just like it's like a different set of numbers. It doesn't even, like I said, it doesn't make sense. But when you're like, oh, okay, I can maybe someday have that kind of numbers, then it's like, all right, I have something to shoot for. I think I know what you mean. Yeah. Eric Vensky says, I get pumped when my average heart rate is 150 on any run, and Seth is all out here running whole mountains at 118. But yeah, it's insane. I mean, and of course, I mean, so that's, I mean, it doesn't surprise me when he's like Mapatone. That means I'd have to do all my runs at like 150 or 160 beats per minute. He's like, do you know how fast that is? And I'm like, yeah, I know how fast it is for you. I get it. Kirsty says, I like Molly Seidel as well. Amazing athlete and a pretty fun sense of what she is doing. Yeah, she's been interesting. I've been following her on Instagram as well. That's been pretty cool. I mean, I also look at Walmsley's a lot, but it's also like insane. He's like, I thought I'd go for a longer run today. And it's like 31 miles at 7 minutes a mile or something like that, or something crazy. And tons of elevation gain. Like, I just don't understand those people. Race Berga says, high heartbeat 180 minus age is the maximum heart rate that I shall target. Yeah, I mean, that's like the general formula for Mapatone. So, I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but the short answer to your question is yeah. Yeah. Colin Baker says, Jim Walmsley's Strava is fun. Nick Thompson of Wired is inspiring since he's older than I and still very fast. Oh, cool. You know, I don't know if he's still on Strava, but Casey Neistat's Strava was pretty interesting as well for a while. He used to, like, back when the last time I remember following it closely, he was running like 10 miles a day at like 7 minute something pace. And I just thought that was insane. I could probably keep up with that for a couple days, but he's been running like crazy lately. So yeah, insane. Let's see. Rainrunner says, I will say that Yuao Wang's Strava is pretty cool too. I don't know who that is. I'll take a look. Recycle on Wednesday says, my heart rate is always like 105 to 110 when I go to the doctor, if it makes you feel any better about your number. But don't they say that there's like there's a really like dorky, like funny to doctors term for it, like it's like exam room heart rate or exam room blood pressure. And so like they usually, whenever they take your blood pressure at the doctor, if the first one's high, they'll take it a second time just to see if like the second time it'll be more normal. And that's happened to me before. It's also happened to me before where like the second time they took it, they're like, oh yeah, it's still really high. You have really high blood pressure. That was before I was running again. I had one physical since then, and my blood pressure is normal now. Lewis Cameron says, follow Des on Strava. It's hilarious for the captions alone. Yeah, she's pretty funny. And usually her husband, I mean, the only ones that I ever see of hers, well, occasionally I see one of hers running alone. I wonder how she decides. Like, she must just never do her workouts. But then I see a lot of hers when her husband also runs with her, it seems. Let's see. MC1796 says, hey, Kofuzi, not to double plug myself, but I think you should give Hal's 5K plan a shot because you wanted to run 1840 5K. Last July, I ran 2357, and the 2-month plan had me run 1839 yesterday. Whoa, crazy. I'll take a look at it. I just don't feel like it's a lot of mileage for Hal's plan. And it seems, I don't know. I'll look at, maybe I could look at one of his more intense ones. But like, I remember the last time I was looking, I was like, I'm not going to run 25 miles a week. That seems like too little, even if I'm running a lot of speed work. And I don't think he does like 3 workouts a week. So I don't know. I'll take another look though. Is Mees Anthony says, hey, Co, greetings from Ireland. Yeah, how are you? Chris Dyke's got to go. He's got a work call coming up. Good to see you, though. JC says white coat syndrome. Is that what it's called? Yeah. That's definitely like doctor humor. Martha says, the super runner conversation reminds me of my week with Dean Karnazes. He hardly produces lactic acid, so while he's not the fastest on the planet, he can run forever. Yeah, I've heard about that about him, that he's just like he's been studied. And he's just like, doesn't bother him. It never happens. It's weird. You don't have to tell me more about this week with Dean Karnazes. How did that come about? What was that for? Oh, cool. Chris Yao says, I searched Strava for the runners on my alma mater track and field roster, and I'm stalking some of them to see their routines. Oh, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, I can't really even remember other athletes that were on the track team when I was in college. So I couldn't name more than 2 other people. And the other 2 people that I could name are the other pole vaulters. But, and one of whom I lived with for years. But what was interesting is there was a guy that I was friends with in high school that we were friends, and we were on the cross country and track teams together. And then one day I got a message, and he was like, so-and-so is my dad. He says hi. And I was like, whoa. So it was like my friend from high school, his son like found me on Instagram. He's running too. And at some point he must have been like, hey, do you know this guy? And I don't know. So it was really weird to like, have like my last interaction with him probably was sometime like 1998 or 1999 or so, a couple of years after high school, probably closer to 1998, maybe 1997. And then the next interaction that I have with him kind of being like talking to his like not adult but like old enough to have Instagram son. So that was really weird, very weird. But it also made a lot of sense that it wasn't like him reaching out to me himself. He seems like the guy that probably doesn't have Instagram or maybe even a smartphone. But last I heard, he's a beer brewer now, which I think is fantastic. Let's see. Raynor was saying about, where'd it go? Man, those trucks are loud. I don't know what it is, but the trucks have just been louder and louder. Or maybe I'm like getting like reacclimated to my noise levels, and so like the trucks coming through here has just been real loud lately. Yeah. Where'd it go? Oh yeah, Rain Runner says Yu Wang is an elite mountain ultra runner. She wins a lot of the 50 miles and 50Ks. Cool. And then someone was saying something about that following up. I don't know. I think I missed it. But yeah, I'll definitely check her out. Very cool. Lewis Cameron is saying, I hope to run into Molly Seidel sometime out on a run. She runs some of the same local routes. That's pretty cool. She's been doing slow miles lately. So she's been putting that on Instagram, that she's trying to run like a mile as slow as possible or whatever. Like that weird challenge. Goodness, I can't imagine doing that. But she's been doing those lately. William Sanchez says, I will need a suggestion regarding to the best running shoes. I would like to buy a good one. I run an average of 20 miles per week. I would say for just like a regular running shoe that's really good, I like the Nova Blast. I like the Pegasus. I am running in the Clifton right now. It's a little bit on the softer side, but it's quite enjoyable. I saw Seth just did a video on the Beacon 3. That's a shoe that I am eagerly anticipating. So hopefully I don't think anyone's sending me that one, so I'm going to have to eventually buy it. But I'm not like in a huge rush for it. It's like I've been waiting for it and waiting for it and waiting for it. And now I think it's actually available for purchase. And I'm like, I kind of have a lot of shoes right now. So I think that one's going to wait a little bit. And Martha says, speaking of Des, I'll repeat that you, Kofuzi, need to ask to be sent the Hyperion Elite 2 along with the Catamount. We'll see. I think that if they could have, worked that out, they would offer that up already. But we'll see if I get that one. I'm pretty curious about it because it's got all that DNA flash, and I like the DNA flash. I also wouldn't be mad if they came out with it in a blue. Like if they came out with that in the same colors as the Hyperion Tempo, then I'd be like, oh, give me that now. I want it. Then I would go around and ask everybody that I know, and I'd be like, please send me that one. But for the current one, I'm like, there's no races right now, so I don't need a super shoe. I find myself a little less excited about the super shoes because I'm not racing. So, not a lot of people are racing. Although I thought I saw someone mention earlier today that there's a race going on in Cleveland this weekend. So good luck. But yeah. So I really want to try it before the Hyperion Elite 3 comes out. So not that I've heard anything, but I feel like the moment I buy a Hyperion Elite 2, the Hyperion Elite 3 is going to be announced. But we'll see. Hopefully I can get that one. Jeff Elliott says, is the midsole of the Hyperion Elite 2 partially translucent? The yellow almost looks like it's glowing when you see pics of it in the sun. Now, I think that's just like the nature of that foam. It looks like what in the Hyperion Tempo, it's blue, and it's like an electric blue color that reminds me of like a Japanese cake from the future, like that comes out of a vending machine and is served to you by a robot. Like that's kind of like what I envision like cake will look like in like 20 years. The foam is just weird. It's kind of like Hyperburst. I think Hyperburst is extruded or infused. They use like carbon dioxide and nitrogen in Hyperburst, and I think that DNA Flash is just nitrogen. I think that makes it more expensive, but it also changes the composition of it just a little bit, and it gives it that weird kind of like color, and that's not what gives it the color, but that's what gives it the weird kind of like texture, and I think that's what we're seeing when we see that kind of glow. Yeah. Okay, Martha says, Dean was following up on that week with Dean Carnessis. There we go. Dean was a guest presenter at Rancho La Puerta where we play music. Okay. Presenters get a week there in exchange for presenting. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. Kirsty says, supposedly they said the same thing about lactic acid or a lack thereof in terms of building up about Lance Armstrong. Huh. I've not heard that before. I just thought, my understanding was that he had giant lung capacity. That's what I thought. But maybe I'm wrong. In addition to doping, but I thought that's what I thought that was the key to his success. Race Burger says, I'm new to this kind of training, been doing it for about a month. How much time should I target to get my heart rate down? Normally do trail runs and normal city runs. I mean, I think it depends on like the training style that you're going after. Like under Maffetone, at least for the first couple of months, you're supposed to do all your running at low heart rate. That's kind of the prescription. And I think that probably gets you results faster in terms of training with that style. But it's also a lot more frustrating. I'll tell you that. It's very frustrating. Rainrunner says, did Ryan Hall give up running because he was burnt out? His seemingly sudden transformation to a weightlifting dude is pretty shocking. You know, I'm not that familiar with what's going on with that. I don't know. EBSCOHO says, where do you donate used shoes? I have some good as new shoes I want to sell, but I think I want to donate it. I just send mine to Salvation Army or like the local place that picks up like used clothes. So I take it there. That's what I did in Chicago. Here, I actually just dropped off a bag of shoes to my nephews that live down the street. And they're nearing the size 9 threshold. So they're like, maybe we'll take a look at some of these. If they don't work for us, we'll donate them to charity for you. So I was like, all right, cool. So I'm hoping that that I'll be able to start dropping off shoes for them for that. They're not runners, but they're like, they're growing boys that need shoes. And at least some of them look really great as casual shoes, even if you're not running. Maybe they'll decide to take them for a run. But at least they can get some use out of it. Save a couple of bucks. Let's see. Pascal Rutza says, has MAF training given you the results you expected so far? It has. And I would say it hasn't in a lot of other ways too. So like, what I'm realizing is that it's, and a lot of people told me this in the beginning as well. So I'm not saying that I've just discovered something, but I do think that there's a part of it where, it's, a great kind of like for any time you're not specifically training for a race, that's how I use it. And then when there's race specific training, then I do race specific trainings, i.e. a lot of speed work. But even then you're not doing speed work for 100% of every run for 7 days a week. You're still at most doing 3 workouts a week, I would say for most people. The rest of them are kind of easy runs, long runs, aerobic base when you're still using the Maffetone style. So that's kind of how I'm using it. I'm understanding it a little bit differently. The two kind of metaphors that I like is like forging and honing. So like if you were building a blade, you have to forge the steel and then you hone it to sharpen it. The Maffetone is like the forging of the steel. You spend a lot of time forging and forging and forging, and then you hone it to a really sharp edge, depending on if you're making an axe for splitting wood, for example, or a knife for slicing a tomato. You know, those are two different things, and they require two very specific types of finishes. And the other kind of way I look at it, being in Iowa where there's cattle and corn and stuff, is like there's the food that you feed a cow for the most part, and then you finish it, with something else at the end in the last couple of weeks before it's slaughtered. So it's like there's like the stuff that it's raised on, and then there's stuff you finish on, and like Maffetone is like the stuff you're raised on. So that's kind of how I think about it. MC1796 talking about you is saying you is kind of nuts. She'll do a 50-mile training run with no music at all. Yeah, that's kind of tough. I was listening to Mario Fraioli did an interview of a friend of his, Mike Rouse, and that's a guy who's been running for like 30 years, and he says he's run over 100,000 miles in the last 30-something years. And he says he's never worn earbuds or listened to music or a podcast or anything ever. And he'll do like a 30-mile run. He's done he did a fundraiser where he did 31 miles a day for 31 days for the month of May. I think it was 2 Mays ago, or is it last May? He's like never listened to earbuds. He goes, I have a lot of time to thought and think. I have a lot of time with my thoughts and time to plan out my day. Is kind of how he explained it. So it's really, really crazy. Jeff Elliott asks, and we'll do a couple more, and then I got to probably get going and see how we are doing with the tree trimming situation. But Let's see. Jeff Elliott says, is the Beacon 3 comparable to the Rincon? No, I'd say the Rincon is probably more comparable to the Fuel Cell Rebel in terms of like the use case. They still feel very different, but I think it's pretty similar. The Beacon 3 might feel a little bit, in terms of like the fresh foam that's in there, it might feel a little bit more similar to the EVA that's in the Rincon. But in terms of the way I'd use it, I consider the Rincon more of a speed shoe, and I also consider the Rebel more of a speed shoe. To go the other way around, the shoe that I'd kind of line up more with the Beacon on the Hoka side would be probably the Clifton. So that's kind of like they're similar, and I don't think it'd be wrong to kind of like use them interchangeably, those two. But I wouldn't think that they're like the exact ones that line up in those lineups. Jay Page saying 4 miles in endorphin shift. They are firm, but with cushion. Interesting. They're tempting me. My knee's feeling great. Today I did another 7 miles, and at mile like 6 or so, I was like, oh, there's the knee, and then it went away. So like I didn't have a problem at all with it. And lately I've been putting in kind of like surges going up the hills just to have a little bit of fun and just try to get like that power meter number to like spike a little bit. And so I felt really good about it today. So I think I might go for a longer run in the next day or so. But I'm feeling good. I'm thinking that later this week I can probably do a mile time trial, maybe do a 5K time trial, and then hopefully next week we'll start training for a 5K/10K. So I still have to figure out what that plan is going to be, but maybe that's something. I mean, it's still earlier in the week. It's Monday, so we'll see how it goes. But because I've been feeling good, I keep like eyeing that Saucony box, and I'm like, endorphin shift. But I'm like, but I am feeling really great, and I don't want to not feel great again. So I'm not sure. I'm so torn. I'm so torn. I don't know what to do. Yeah. Let's do one more. Kurt C says, Molly Seidel did it in like 30 minutes. She talked about the slow mile. I think it's hilarious. She is doing this on a track, and all these folks walking and passing her have no idea who it is. I would be jumping up and down. Yeah, I think that like Molly Seidel, I think definitely like could be like incognito runner for sure. And you just be like, oh, look at her. She's trying running. That's great. I would probably not even notice who it was. But yeah, I think but I mean, except for the fact that there's someone right behind her, like videotaping her, but I guess that doesn't even mean that much these days. So yeah. Sean Marshall says, Kofuzi, you thinking the Saucony stability theory is proving true? You said your knee is getting better. I think so. And to follow up, someone asked me, well, what about the Triumph 17? How did you feel then? And because in the video that I made about it, I said like I don't remember what my numbers were with the Triumph 17, and I know that I probably should have done that to be a little bit more thorough. But here's the more recent data anyway. But the Triumph 17, I was running in that around the same time that I was talking to you guys about my dream to run the steeplechase. And remember, that's when I also said my knee was starting to hurt, and we all chalked it up to the fact that I was jumping over barriers and obstacles along the lakefront in Chicago. But I was also running in the Triumph 17 a lot at that time. So like it's not like a direct correlation, but it's pretty strong in my mind. And so like even just this fact that it's been about 2 weeks now since I've been running a Saucony shoe, and my knee is like better. It's almost perfect. So like I feel like I'm onto something. So I think that what it means is like, and with the way that I treated my time with like the On shoes, like On brand shoes, is that I can run in them once in a while. And like my experience with the Asics GT 2000 version 8, I can run in them once in a while, but I don't know that I can do like, I can't do 2 weeks of it straight kind of thing. So, all right. I think that's a good place to leave it for today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Tomorrow, hopefully we'll have, well, I'll let you guys know what we have for tomorrow in terms of live stream. Maybe we'll have Trivia Tuesday. Maybe I'll do Monday Mukbang. I'm not sure. But we'll see how it goes depending on kind of like what the schedule is tonight. If they don't get the tree taken out tonight, or if we're like find out that like the tree trimmers aren't even there yet and they're not going to get there till like 5, we probably won't go tonight, and we might just go early tomorrow, and that could mean maybe no live stream. So we're going to have to play it by ear. I'll let you guys know either on a post on YouTube, and I'll try and get a picture of that cowbell for you guys. I'll put that in the Strava Run Club so you guys can check that out. But yeah, I will have a video tomorrow in the morning in either regard and either way. So you can check for that. And then we'll do the next live stream as soon as we can. So hopefully that'll be tomorrow, but we'll see. In the meantime, hope you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks, everybody.